Okay, so I've got AutoCAD open and I'm going to begin with the steps that we need to perform for the assignment to do the setup of the borders that you're going to have around the images that you're going to then insert with Photoshop later on. So the first stages we've been looking at with AutoCAD, and the other tools that you've been looking at should help you. And now though you can see we need to make an A3 page, and in the exercises you've been making an A4 page. So that's going to be a little bit different, but again I'm going to go through all the steps right now. So again, starting with AutoCAD, going to make sure we begin with the right template by clicking on the down arrow beneath Start Drawing there, and I'm going to scroll down to find AutoCAD ISO, or AutoCAD ISO, and not the ones with named plot styles in the name, just AutoCAD ISO.dwt. Select that. So I've made a blank AutoCAD file, and I'm going to then use the rectangle tool, and you can choose that from the draw menu and then choose rectangle, or on the ribbon you'll find in the draw panel up here, I haven't used this very much, there's a rectangle button in the top right corner of that. You can see that small button there. So I'm going to click to start drawing a rectangle and type in 0, 0 for the first corner, and then enter. And now the top right corner is going to be the size of an A3 page. So that's 420, 297, and then enter again. Now, as usual, we can't see that rectangle yet, but if I zoom with the wheel, you can see I can find that fairly easily, just rolling the wheel backwards a little bit. And then if you right-click, you can choose Zoom, and then right-click again, you can choose Zoom Extents. You might remember, I'll just right-click again and choose Exit, and you might remember that if you double-click with the wheel, that does the same thing. So that's a shortcut to Zoom Extents. And again, the notes tells you another way. So again, I've got my border, and now I want to give that a thickness. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see that a bit more clearly. And again, I want to use a tool that you've used before. In the notes, I would have said go to the Modify menu and choose Offset. But again, I'm going to choose that from the ribbon this time. So in the Modify panel here, you can see that icon there is the same as you see on the menu. So I'm going to click there, Offset, and then type in the distance 5, and then enter, and then I'm going to select the border, and then move the cursor inside the rectangle and click again to get a parallel copy of that. So I've got a thickened border. I'm going to press enter, and now I need to make some of the divisions that we want inside that border. So this is just an example. You'll need to come up with your own pattern, but I just want to give you some ideas how you can create this pattern of the borders of the images that you're going to insert. So at the moment, this is well, it's actually a polyline, you can see there. We use the rectangle tool to make that, but every connected line in AutoCAD is a polyline. So I want that in as individual lines, so I'm going to select it, scroll up there, and then go up to the Modify panel there and find the Explode tool. So that's the one you can see with the box being broken apart, or exploded. So I'm just going to click there to explode. And now you can see if I go to select any of the inner lines of that rectangle, that they're separate lines. And now to deselect, I can press Escape. It's a handy shortcut. And again, I've clicked to make a window. I don't want that, so again I'm going to press Escape to cancel that. So Escape will cancel most things. And I just wanted to show you that if I select the outer rectangle, it's still one continuous polyline, because I haven't exploded that one yet. So again, Escape to deselect. And now I want again, a border, maybe using a measurement. So I'm going to use Offset and type in the measurement I want, 60 mil, 6 centimetres. And then enter. And then I'm going to select this line and then just click to the right. So I've got a parallel copy. And I'm going to go a little bit faster. So I'm going to press enter to finish that offset command. And now to repeat offset, you can see at the command line it says type your command. So if you remember, you can press enter then. That'll always repeat the last command. So it's asking me for a new distance with offset, and I'm going to type 5, and then again enter, select my line, and then again click to the right. So now I'll press enter one more time to complete the offset, and now I can keep repeating that, and hopefully you can see how quickly you can create lots of parallel copies using precise measurements. So again, pressing enter repeats offset, since it was the last command, and then this time I might use 90 for my distance, or 9 centimetres. These are just the dimensions that you'll have on the page. And again, I'll select the line, click to the right, another parallel copy, enter, enter again to repeat offset, and this time 5 again to get that standard width that we're using for the borders. So now I might do some vertical lines, but instead of using offset, I'm going to draw a line, and this time I'll snap to the midpoint of one of the lines that I've drawn previously, and then I'm going to come over to the right and snap to the midpoint of the other line there on the edge. And then again enter, so that way I can get a border that's divided evenly between the top and the bottom. Now I might zoom in just to make it easier to see, and I'll use offset again. And this time I'm going to use 2.5 as my distance, since that's half of 5. Enter, and now I can select that line and click above, and then select the line again, the same line, and click below. And then enter. So that way I've now got a 5mm wide border that's centred between the top and the bottom. And so then the original line that I drew, I can delete now. That was just a temporary construction line. So that, hopefully that will give you some ideas how you can create some different borders. If the lines are either vertical or horizontal, you should be able to use offset, or maybe sometimes draw lines by snapping. But now I want to try doing some diagonal lines. So again, I'm going to use the line tool, and I'm going to start in the corner here, and then down on the status bar, I'm going to check to see that polar's turned on. So if you remember, you have ortho, which sets right angles, which here is just going to go over the lines I've already drawn mostly. But if I go and turn polar on instead, it'll use the angles that are set. So I'm clicking on the arrow there to see what the settings are. It's on 5. That's maybe a bit small, so I'm going to increase that to 15. And now you can see as I move the cursor, it's snapping every 15 degrees. So that's at 15, 30, and now 45. So I'm going to come up to the right, and I'm going to take it past the lines I've already drawn. So again, enter, we'll finish drawing the line, and I'm going to now use offset again. Remembering we want the border following this angle to be centred over that line. So I'm going to keep the previous distance, 2.5mm, you can see down on the status bar there, and next to the cursor. So I'm going to press enter to keep that distance. And now select the diagonal line, click above, and then maybe zoom in so I can select the same line again and click below. So similar to what I did up here. And again, I'll delete the original line in the middle. And so you can see we've got the line between the edges here and here, and also this one, I suppose. But I want to cut it back to there. So I'm going to, again, press Escape to deselect those lines and then use the trim tool, which is maybe the one that I think some people haven't gotten up to yet, but don't worry, it's fairly easy to use as long as you follow through the right steps. So up here on the ribbon again, you can choose Trim. And you can see there, it gives you the option to select objects, but it's hard to tell, if you haven't used it before, that it's actually asking you to select cutting edges. So if you click on the arrow there, you can see that it says that. So select cutting edges. So that means you choose where you want to cut the line first before you choose the line. And it's logical. It'll make sense to you probably more when you've done it a few times. But I know at first it's tempting to try and choose the things that you want to cut. So here I want to cut these two lines back, but instead I need to choose this line first, and then I'll press Enter, and now I can cut those two lines back to the cutting edge, that one that I've chosen before. Choose this other one, and then again Enter to finish. So I'm going to do Trim again, and I'll choose this line down the bottom and this vertical line here, because they're the lines I want to use to cut these diagonals. So again, Enter to finish selecting the cutting lines or the cutting edges, and now again I'm going to choose these two lines where I want them cut.
So it's quicker to cut them than draw them?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. You often will draw lines extending through lots of other things and then just cut them back afterwards again. So that's enough for now. I'll trim it back more afterwards, but I'm going to press Enter and just show you one last shape before doing a little bit more trimming. So now I might want to draw a circle and use that as one of my borders. So I'm going to use the Circle tool there. And actually, I'll just show you, if you click on the arrow under Circle, you'll see that there are lots of different options. And if someone else has been using the computer, they might have chosen another option. So I'm using the one at the top there, Center Radius. But if you click on the button up the top, it should usually give you that. So again, Center Radius, and now I'm going to click the center point that I want for my circle on the end of this line. So now coming out, you can see it's asking me for the radius of my circle, and I might make that 60. It's all fairly random at the moment. And then again, we want this to be a 5mm border, so I'm going to offset this 5mm. So again, 5 for my distance, Enter, select the circle, click outside, and then Enter one more time. So now I want some of these lines to be trimmed back to the edge of the circle, so I'll go back to Trim, select the outer edge of my circle, Enter, again, that's right, exactly, and then choose the two lines that I want trimmed back there. I'm going to leave the one in the middle. So again, Enter one more time. And so I'll probably show you some examples of some better layouts than this. This is really just to give you some idea of how you can make your borders, but it's going to spend more time than I have coming up with your layout. And so now though, I want to tidy this right up, and so the final thing we'll probably do is to trim all these little edges here between the lines. So I'm going to go back and use Trim again and show you a really good shortcut. At the beginning, when it asks you to select objects or to select your cutting edges, instead of selecting anything, you can press Enter. That makes everything a cutting edge. And that means you can then go in and click on any line and it will cut back to the nearest thing without you telling AutoCAD where your cutting edges are. So it's really good in situations like this. It's not always good though, because there'll be times when you have lines crossing lots of other lines or lots of other shapes, and in those situations it's better to choose a cutting edge. So think about the fastest way of doing things. But again, in this situation, Makes a lot of sense to do it this way. Okay, so there we are. So very simple border, but again, using those steps, you should be able to get everything you need for the borders part of the first assignment. Just start putting there.